different resources that we've shared along the way. You can go back in and find links, but then also we'll share different markets that you guys, you know, really enjoy going out to, have success at, and we'll share those out too. And we'll have a question period. Now, if we have time as we present on the different topics, we can answer some questions. If not, we'll save it to the end. So we'll let you know how we're running in terms of time. Sorry, guys. Okay, so booth presentation. Now we are going to be handing this over to our panel. We did give them some questions for consideration, and so I'll just read them out to you really briefly so you have an idea. And if we've missed anything along the way, feel free to bring it back up, or if any other questions arise, just keep them in mind. Maybe jot them down or put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to them. So for different types of display, you'll notice that our panel members come from diverse backgrounds in terms of the products and services that they sell. We wanted to do that so, you know, hopefully you can relate or gain some insight into what they're doing that relates back to what you're doing. So display and setup considerations unique to your product category. Top 3 things when heading to market. So those really key things that you take with you every time. Indoor and outdoor considerations, so weather, lighting, those sort of things. The branding that you have out with you when you go to market, so signage, banners, tents, tables, cards, those sort of things. Lessons learned, and I'm sure you know you guys have lots of lessons to share about your journey so far. And then if we don't go through it with our panel members, we'll jump back to it, but security and insurance considerations, and then food vendor rules and different permits that you may need to have to sell food at markets. So we'll pass it over first to Kim from the Good Wax Candle Co. Thank you, Kim, again for joining us. Oh, you got it.
There we go. Now I'm talking. Thanks, Tina, and thanks for helping me get into the meeting. I was like a nerd sitting in front of my computer 10 minutes early, like, why is nobody letting me in?
Oh, so sorry.
So thank you. So thank you for allowing me to join this seminar. I'm really excited to be able to share some of the things that I've learned along the way. My business is just 18 months in, so I feel like I am still just getting started, but I've had a lot of markets behind my back in the last 18 months. So the picture that you see in front of you is, oh, and I'm sorry, my dog just let herself in. I had locked myself in my office, so I apologize if she jumps up and you see her on the screen. So it's an evolution. When I started my business, I didn't start my display looking like this. I started with one 6-foot table and a tablecloth and just candles. And so I noticed with all the markets that I go to that you know, visual merchandising is just as important as what you're seeing. And adding height to your display and keeping your displays looking full to me is important. My background was 20 years in retail, and the places that I worked at, it was really important to keep it looking full so that your audience has a lot to look at. And depending on what market you're going to, are you indoor, are you outdoor? Where's the location of your booth? Are you going to be in the center of other booths? Are you going to be at a corner? So I always try and maximize the space. Sometimes my displays are so that people can walk inside my tent. Maybe if it's a fall winter market and the climate's not so nice and you're outside, you want people to come in out of the elements, and they'll want to spend a little bit more time inside your booth. And if it's an indoor market, ask what you can bring, because I found that sometimes I would bring too much and then I wasn't able to display some of my marketing materials. My tables wouldn't fit. I can't bring my tent. So those are good questions to ask the organizer. You know, if you're starting with just one table, one display with your products, then, I mean, that's quite flexible. Most markets allow you at least a 6-foot space, but it's always good to ask the questions of how much can you bring? And also, can it fit in your vehicle? That's a really important question to ask yourself. You know, do a dry run, pack your vehicle, whether you have a car or a van, pack it and see if everything fits. And can you navigate it and manage it on your own, or are you going to bring somebody with you? So all of those things, it's an evolution. So if you're just getting started, you'll come across all of these issues, but the more you do, the better it gets. You're muted, Tina.
Off mute, Tina? Or just go to the next slide, you can introduce.
Yeah, no, we're good. And thank you, Kim. We're going to move on. Oh, I guess first, does anyone have any questions for Kim specifically? I think we're okay for time so far. So while we have her here and talking, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Tina, I don't have a question, but if you go back to Kim for a sec.
Yeah.
Kim, I remember doing my first market. Well, not my first market. I remember doing a market where it was Kim's first market, and she was set up beside me with a 6-foot table and tablecloth. She has come such a long way, but also every time we chat, her tent is just, she hasn't touched on this, but her tent has all of her branding, and the right image is her inside a trade show, and she's used her tent. So I just want to say, like, her setup is totally spot on for how that market specifically worked. And then also, like, people can see her tent from down a row and they notice that tent and they go right for it. So Kim could probably touch on that a little bit more too, because she
Thanks, Allie. Thank you. Yeah, if I can bring my tent. The tent was something that I bought pretty much off the hop because I did a couple markets and I did a few indoor markets where people were actually able to bring a tent. And I thought, what a great way to see yourself in a sea of other vendors. And wherever I go, having my branding all the way around has been really impactful, because if I'm at, let's say, for instance, Laura's Farm Stand, that's a market that I've done that's just south of Barrie, and there's hundreds of vendors that go. And so when my customers are coming to find me, they can see my tent, and a lot of people will have unbranded black, white, or blue tents. So having the marketing all around my tent has been quite advantageous for me. And so thank you, Allie, for bringing that up. So I always try and bring it where I can. And it was important to me too to have different messaging on all 4 sides of my tent. So I've got one side that has my website, one side that talks about the small batch hand poured supporting local mental health charities. So I tried to really maximize on that, but also keeping my branding neutral but impactful, because I wanted something that was going to look timeless and stand up against against trends and whatnot too. So thanks, Allie.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And then also, I know when we were chatting with everybody last week, we were talking about too that it's not something that has to happen right away. It's an evolution through time. So don't feel intimidated, like, you know, I need all this right now and it's such an expense. It's something that can kind of grow as you grow. Thank you. Okay. We have Brian from Innisfil Creek Honey. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I guess we'll start out. I think most of it was basically covered. There's not very many secrets about having a successful booth at a farmer's market. Right from the beginning, we've been around for, I don't know, 15 years. We've been doing markets for. And I think that the biggest bit of advice you can give any person starting out with a market or selling a product at a market style event is approach it as a business. Treat it like a business. You wouldn't start a restaurant and not make a sign. You wouldn't start a restaurant and not do market research and figure if your product is even wanted by that market. And then you would approach it like we have always done, is we've always approached it with a branded tent, branded tablecloths, making our, I guess, store, which is our tent, memorable. So when people see it at one market, they see it at the next market, they know what we're doing, and having it so it jumps out from everybody. So our branding is bright and shiny, big bees all over it. Not really worried about too much wording, because really people aren't looking at wording, they're looking at pictures and looking at how bright it is. And making it look inviting and coming into it. And then when we set up our booths inside, We set our tables up. Right now, we always go with 2 booths usually, two tents at any event we do, because we get busy enough there that we require 2 different areas to sell products. And then stacking things high. If you look into any grocery store, it's a very simple marketing thing is to copious amounts of things sell product. If you have 4 things sitting on your table, nobody's going to come to your table and want to buy it because it doesn't look like you have enough of it. If you have 100 things piled all over your table, people are going to buy things. With us, we probably bring about 30% more stock than we ever will sell at the event. Even so, at the last day and the last hour of the event, our table still looks full. And I think that's very important to do that. The other thing I would say to anybody that's having a tent or a booth at any kind of event is don't bring a chair. I've seen so many people set up their booth, put a table up, sit down in their chair behind the table, play on their phone, and wonder why nobody's buying anything. If you go into a retail store, the employees don't sit in the corner on chairs. They walk around, they talk to people, they say hello to you when you walk by. They're very interactive. So when you're setting up your booth, look at it, set it up with a nice flow, but don't leave a space for yourself to sit down. Expect to stand there all day, wander back and forth. If you do have an issue where you can't stand all day, some kind of mobility issue, try to pick a chair that's a stool that's going to lift you up so that you're sitting down at eye level. So people, when they walk by, still can make eye contact with you. You can still talk with them. I think that's the biggest thing about setting up a booth. With us, from our indoor and outdoor, for outdoor events, we have our branded tents. For indoor events, we have a branded backdrop that matches our branded tents. And the backdrop fits in behind the whole booth, so it allows us to, or allows the customer to remember who we are. So look at that. I'm not saying you have to actually spend the money on a branded tent, but a tablecloth is nice, something that, with branding on it, a little flag sign or something. Put a little effort into your booth before you actually go and try to sell things. Don't know what else to say.
Good. Anyone have any questions for Brian?
Tina, I'm just going to jump in. So both Kim and Brian, you guys have a product that would probably be sensitive to the heat. And I know you both do a very popular summer market. So I'm just wondering if either of you could touch on that and how you kind of combat that with the product melting or spoiling.
Brian, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, we bring our honey products and cosmetics. We also bring live bees to events, invented beehives, so people can see them. And when we try to go to an event, we try to find talk to the event organizer, because we have a heat sensitive product, and we have bees that if they're in sunlight too long will die. So we try to talk to the event supervisor, our coordinator, and ask them if we can get like a east facing booth or something that's not going to be facing into the western sunlight. The west sun is the worst for heat in the day, so we try to get aimed the right way. And then we try to rotate things. So if we notice something, if we're in a wrong spot or the sun's peeking in, we really pay attention on those products that are heat sensitive and try to rotate them in and out, so they don't actually get heated up enough to actually damage them.
Great.
Yeah, so if I can add in a little bit, same as Brian, I find that I do have to connect with the event organizers because I use coconut wax in my candles. They have a very low melt point. So I try and make sure that if I can be in a shadier area, and like Brian said, like not face the western sun, to keep a little bit cooler. But also I've gone ahead and I've purchased sort of an antique type cooler, and I do keep, when it's really hot, when I do Kempenfest, which is an amazing festival. If you haven't been, you need to go. I have a cooler that I keep kind of temperate, and I rotate my inventory in that cooler. And yeah, so you just have to be mindful if your product is sensitive to heat or cold, just to make sure that you do some kind of testing at home. Like I ended up testing the cooler at home in the spring, just to make sure I had thermometers inside, and I was just keeping my candles out in the heat too, just not under a tent, but just in my backyard, just to see what they would do. So testing your product before you go into a really hot or really cold market would be a good idea too.
That's great insight. Thank you, guys. And then also, I thought I would mention now, just because Brian, I think you have experience, not necessarily that you're that the honey is applicable to different food permits and rules around selling food at markets, but you did provide some good insight into what those are, and for our food people, what they might need to consider before going to market with a food product.
Yeah, I can expand on that really, just because I get asked to get permits all the time for food because I have honey, and although honey is not covered under the health board regulations, so I know how it all works. So it's very simple. The health board is out there. They have a form. You fill it out. Very simple to fill out. They're going to want to make sure that the product you bring was manufactured in a kitchen, or a food safe kitchen, or an inspected kitchen, which is either a restaurant or something like that it was fixed in. A lot of legions and places like that will rent out their kitchens. And if you want to prepare things at home and get your home kitchen certified, they'll actually certify home kitchens. So you can contact the health board if you're doing a food item, and get a certification for your home kitchen, and they'll walk you through the whole process. One thing to really look at is just be nice to the health unit people. They're just people doing a job, and I've seen a lot of vendors get upset with them, and getting upset with a health unit person only gets you kicked out of the event, because they're not going to put up with it. So just be nice to the people when you're working with government at all. Talk to them. They'll walk you through step by step how to get a food safe kitchen in your house, or how to comply to the health regulations for the event.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. And there's also, once we send the slideshow out, we're just running short on time now. But if you see the play button here, there's actually a video of Brian set up at Kempenfest. So you can see sort of his strategy when he goes to that market. And if any of you, like we were talking about earlier, has been to Kempenfest, it's huge. So having the right strategy in place, I think, is something really important going into it. Oh, great. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened here. My internet, apparently. Oh, it went over to that anyways. I apologize. There we go.
Hey, everybody. Right
Oh
from
my God.
beautiful
I'm losing my stuff here.
Barrie. We're set up downtown on the waterfront of
And
Barrie
you can't even see it.
for Kempenfest this weekend. Got our booth set up there. I'll take you for a little tour of the booth there in a second. Going to be a fantastic weekend. If you're not doing anything, head up to Barrie here. One of the largest festivals in the area. They have, I don't know, kilometers and kilometers of different types of booths, antiques, rides for the kids, circus clowns, I don't know,
Sorry,
stuff like
guys.
that.
There it is.
And
So you
they
can watch that on your own. It is there. You can take a look at that whole setup. Let me get us back to our presentation. Here we go. Okay. Go through. will not press on that button that time. Okay, up next we have Anik from TM3 Mobile Boutique. Welcome to Anik. Thanks
Thank
for choosing
you. Thanks for having me. Mine's a little different because I'm a women's clothing and accessories boutique. So I started with just like I think back, it was my first market was in November 2021, and I literally had a tablecloth on top. It was not branded. And then I had made signs that I put on the table, and then I had clothing racks. And now, like Kim said, it's really about the evolution, because it can be very overwhelming to think about everything that you may need to get to be able to have a nice booth. But over the past year, I've invested in my business, and like you can see the sign, the wooden sign on the table to the right, I had that made, and then I had a branded cloth made. And then in March last year, I found that it wasn't working well for me. I do indoor markets, but I wanted something more. I wanted to offer something more. So I came up with the idea of renovating our old camper trailer. And now my business is mobile. So it's a little different than everybody else I call her Violet. So she's in the bottom picture there. So I had some branding on her done. She's going to get a little bit more this year, because as you go to markets and events and festivals, you see things, it gives you ideas, and you talk to other vendors, and it's amazing how much I've grown and my business has grown, and what it looks like when I go to a market now. So for me, at the beginning, it was very scary and intimidating. And now doing markets is something that I love to do. I think keeping an open mind with the organizers is really important, and open communication, because my vehicle, like Violet, is bigger, I most likely need a bigger space to be able to park her. So I always try to keep that communication open, and I'm going to be investing more this year in more branding. So in like a vertical banner that I can have a sign so it's bigger, so that people can see it from further away. I mean, people see Violet when we're there, when we do outdoor markets. She's hard to miss. But so that's what I've done. I found it very overwhelming at the beginning, but as the time goes, you just, oh, I'll get this done and this and this, and then it adds up. And then now it's like sometimes my minivan is full of stuff in the back, and I have all my clothes in Violet as well. So you have to be mindful, like Kim said, that you can bring everything with you. And then, yeah, it's just been a great experience, lots of learning and a lot more to learn. But I find it's very helpful when you're speaking with other vendors at venues. It's you get a lot of ideas.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Anik before we move on? Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. Okay, we have OB High. We have Allie here. Hi, Allie. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. So I'm Allie from OB Hive. I look at this display and I think it still needs work, but I make eco-friendly alternatives to plastic, such as beeswax straps and reusable produce bags. So a lot of my product is really meant for your house, for your kitchen, for your lunches. So I just try to incorporate anything that's any kind of like storage system that's food related. Like I have my produce baskets and my bread baskets. So I kind of keep it to a theme of what I'm selling. Everything that the other three panel members have said before me, I fully agree with. You kind of learn as you go. You build on what you don't have. I used to stay up till probably 2 a.m. before a market, just making sure I had enough product, and then I'd hardly, like, I would sell it, but not, you know, I would over prepare and over stress. So I always just kind of say, go into it with a clear mind. and shoppers don't know what you don't have on your display. And if they do know and you don't have it, then you send them, you make them an order and you say, I can ship it to you, or get it to you somehow else. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions for Ali before we move on? Okay, we have Shiny Soul Creations and we have Brittany and Victoria here. Welcome, guys. Thanks again. Oh, we can't hear you.
Britt, are you on your AirPods? Technical difficulties, give us a second.
It's the theme of this
It's
morning.
the theme of today. It's the weather. My internet's pretty wonky too, I think, so can't hear you. I'll hop in while Britt's getting that sorted. So I'm Victoria and this is my business partner, Brittany, and we're the owners of Shiny Soul Creations, and we create modern jewelry that individuals connect to in a meaningful way. And definitely echo what all of the panelists have previously been saying. When we're preparing for a vendor market, one of the first things that we're asking ourselves is, what do we want our customers to feel? What's the experience that we're trying to portray? And this is an evolution, just as everyone said. So we'll use Kempenfest as our example. So during our first market ever, which was Kempenfest, we were like thrown right in. We did not really have a clear idea or a clear vision what we were doing. And so much of the display items that we invested in didn't necessarily feel representative of our brand today. But the following year, we had a whole year to like figure out who we were as a brand. And so that year we decided that we really wanted our customers to have an experience when they walked into our booth. And with that, we decided that we wanted to create almost like a cozy bedroom-like environment where people could wake up, feel like they were planning their outfit for the day, setting their intentions with their jewelry, and then sort of on they went with their day. So we decided to bring a dresser into the booth with curtains to sort of soften the look. You can see that in this photo up here. And incorporated a self-care sanctuary where people could actually come in, sit on this little couch, do some yoga, because we had our storefront was in a yoga studio, so it was a little bit of cross promotion as to where people could find us after. We wouldn't recommend bringing a dresser into the booth. That was sort of the death of us in terms of setting up and taking down, which was a lot of work, although it definitely achieved our goal of what it was that we were hoping for that year. In hindsight, some of the feedback was that although it was lovely, it did feel like more of a commitment or a little bit, intimidating to have to come into the booth, which likely would have deterred some shoppers who were just wanting to browse by and not necessarily have that experience. Last year, we had a corner booth, and our main piece was that we wanted our customers to feel safe as well as ourselves to feel safe. And so we decided to do an outside booth where we had tables along the outside corners of our booth, which ended up being our most successful Kempenfest yet. And then we were still able to have this reflective of our modern style, very intention-based. So our branding and logos were all about sending the message of our brand. And beyond this, one of the things that we're always looking to do is find other ways to help customers remember our brand. And so we'll do this by trying to tap into people's senses. So we'll have gentle music going, which feels representative of us. Sometimes we'll have some scents going, essential oils, a candle. The first year was really hot, and so we had fans to cool people down. So even if people weren't necessarily coming in as a shopping, then they could start to connect that cool down, that settling feeling with the brand in a pretty unconscious way. Britt, are you back with audio now, or should I?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
There we go. You can take over that.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, just to chime in there. So we also, as other vendors have mentioned, branding the tent was something that we invested in our second year at Kempenfest. And that's definitely been a game changer for us. We've brought that to all of our outdoor markets. So great for the visual branding. Another thing that we think is key to be mentionable is having the removable sides for your tent, especially in a market like Kempenfest where the weather can be very unpredictable. You know, having the weights, I think that it was the first year we didn't have proper weights. So we were literally standing there holding on to the 4 posts rather than being able to engage with our customers. And then again, like at night when you're closing up and just in terms of like your nighttime security, and you still want to have not necessarily keep all your product there, but there's still some valuables in there. So just being able to like lock up the sides of your tent. But most of the branded tents, I think they come with the 4 sides. I guess, what else? I guess, yeah, weights for our tent. Another key thing that we've worked with each year, we've kind of like improved each year, is having the pricing very easily recognizable to the customer so that they don't have to come up to you and ask like, oh, how much is this? How much is this? Because that can, again, deter some customers as well. So making sure pricing is clear and easily visible for the customers. And then also having a backup of the square system, which I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about the payment system, but always having a backup because you never know what's going to happen.
All great. Thank you guys. We're running a little behind now, so I'm just gonna move on, but we do have a question period at the end. So if you have a question specifically for Brittany and Victoria, then you can definitely put it in the chat or have the opportunity to raise your hand at that time. Oh, okay. And as was just mentioned, pricing and payment. I think that's a hard one for a lot of people. I'm sure there's been like many sleepless nights and, you know, just stress about how should I price my item? How should I price it so it's going to sell? And I think there's a lot that goes into pricing your product or service. I think it's really important first that you do your market research and you look at people in your industry and what they're doing to make sure that A, you're not overpricing and B, you're not underpricing. So that because if you're underpricing, you're undervaluing your service or product, and if you're overpricing, then you're going to price yourself out of the market. But other things that need to be considered is the materials that you're using, the time that you're putting in, not only to make your product, but you know, other things like the marketing that you do for your products and services, vendor fees, accommodations if needed, like insurance, all those other little things. And we can touch on insurance really quickly too, because I think that people do have questions in regards to insurance. But yeah, so making sure that we really look at all these different items when we're pricing out our products and services. And we did touch on, when we were speaking as a group, we did touch on insurance. And I think that there's a lot of fear around insurance and that it's going to cost a lot to make sure that, you know, your products are insured. Like especially if you're setting up and leaving your things there overnight, you want to make sure that you do have insurance. And earlier in the presentation, I do have a link that was recommended by Ashley in the group for Duo, which is like a affordable insurance to have. But there are things that can happen. I think it was a couple years ago. And again, I think it was Niagara, Ashley, you were saying, where there was a fire and there were a lot of people that lost all of their merchandise. So it is definitely something to consider when you're going to market and just checking out that pricing and seeing if it makes sense for you.
I'm just going to jump in really quick. So,
yeah.
So 3 methods of getting insurance. Check if you have business insurance, check with your business insurance provider. They might include event insurance. You can actually list all the markets that you're going to be attending. Duo, like you mentioned, is a really good one. And the other one is PAL, P-A-L. Both of those do insurances specifically for arts and crafts events. So they are well aware of how they function. You also want to check with the market or event that you're going to be attending and see what they require to be put on the document insurance form. So we require not only Kempenfest address, but we also require the city of Barrie.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. So for payment options, that's another thing starting out right out of the gate, you may not have like a Square payment system right away. So thinking about how you want to receive payments varies in terms of like what works best for your product and service and how much you're selling. So if you're selling a lot of things, email transfer may create a big backup, and you may lose customers that way. Versus if you have that Square and you're selling a lot, it might make sense to use it at that time. So it's just how much you're selling and what you're selling. Bigger items, like if you're selling paintings, you're probably going to sell less, like per, rather than like a small item. So at that point, email transfer might be an okay option to use. And then, another consideration, if you're taking cash, is there a bank machine nearby? So if that's your only payment option and there's no way for someone to get cash, so it's all those little things you think about. And again, if you're going into a market, those are questions that you can ask the organizer as well, to make sure that you're prepared. And I forget who mentioned it earlier, but having a backup plan. I think it was Brittany and Victoria that mentioned having a backup plan if all else fails. So we're just throw it out to the panel or anyone that wants to answer is what payment methods do you use now and when you first started? So that might have progressed over time. And what's your pricing strategy, and anything we missed talking about, any considerations we missed when pricing out your product or service?
We actually switched from using Square to Shopify because it integrated with our website. So Shopify came out with a POS system, and one of the benefits of that is that it tracks our inventory. So after the show, because we weren't using Square as our primary platform, we didn't have to go and adjust that. So we've transferred to that payment platform, but we still have Square as our backup.
And then in terms of our pricing strategy, we, especially at a show, we like to bundle or like offer some kind of discount for multiple items being purchased, just to help incentivize some customers to buy larger quantities, especially for jewelry, to help increase our sales volume. And then any like one-time promotions, like, hey, come to Kemp Fest. Like, I think last year we did like a little secret code, so people had to come in and share the secret code with us, and then we offered them like another discount, which was kind of cool.
I'm just going to talk about payments. I think if anybody's going to start doing any type of markets, they're silly not to just go get a Square. A Square is, they ship them to you for free. You can then take credit cards and debit cards and all that stuff. And in today's market, when no one carries cash around, if you don't accept credit cards, or debit cards, you're going to lose out on 60% of your sales, if not more. So I think it's a simple thing you can do is just go out and order one of the Square units. For most people, that's all you'll ever need, and it'll work well. For pricing, I think you got to look at. I go to a lot of places and I look at the prices in the festivals, and I look at products people are selling, and I see some of them and I go, wow, I know you're at a fancy festival, but you're double what you can buy this stuff, the exact same product for in the store. And you see them sitting there with their products and not selling them. I think you really have to do market research, look at your product, figure out what your product can actually sell for or sells for in stores, and try to be pretty honest with your pricing. Don't charge extra because you're at an event. People know you do that. So if you're looking to do it long term, it's better to have a good relationship and charge a fair amount for your product.
It's great feedback for sure. Does anybody have any questions about pricing and payment?
Tina, if I may, I just want to back up what Brian is saying about knowing your market. I think doing your market research. Not every market is going to be for your business, and getting yourself out there, I think, is a really great start. But as you use your business and you're growing with your business, I think you over time can figure out which markets are for you and which ones are not. And that doesn't mean anything about the coordinators. It just means in terms of where it's located, who the shoppers are, the type of season. It could all come down to what you're selling as well. So just being mindful of that, sort of along the lines of what Brian was saying there.
That's great. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So the next slide is selling and being present. So we know, and we touched on this earlier as well, the introverts out there, you know, you got to sort of challenge that, want to sort of hide behind your products, and you know, it can be hard putting yourself out there if you're not sort of an extrovert or you know, a little more shy than others. But it is really important that you're present and approachable for your customers. Otherwise, people aren't going to come. So, you know, the little things make a really big impact. I think Brian was saying earlier, you know, kind of fight the desire to want to sit behind your product, make sure you're standing or present so that people can see you. And then the small things like eye contact, smiling, just being welcoming in general and approachable is really, really important because you draw people in that way. You know, and even if they weren't planning to come over, once they sort of made eye contact with you, some people even feel like, oh, okay, now I need to go over and say hello. And I was just talking to someone the other day, you know, they made the majority of their sales that way, people sort of passing and then making eye contact, then starting that conversation. And then the customer even saying, oh, I wasn't even going to stop, but it was so lovely to chat with you. And they had sold items that way as well. So just being approachable and then being able to chat with people. Again, people that are more shy might have a hard time with this. So, you know, it's the thought that how do I start a conversation without feeling pushy? So having those conversation starters that work for you, that you're comfortable with, I think are really important, your go-tos. And then getting to know other vendors around you at the market and building your business network and building your community, I think is really important when you're out there as well. You never know for future collaborations, even, you know, someone to go to for support and questions. Those are all really important things to broaden your business network. So for the panel, tips and tricks, what's your style when you're out at markets? And then what do you find works for you? And what do you see maybe other vendors doing that you're like, oh, I wish I could help you or say something because you know it's impacting the success of being there.
If it's okay that I kind of jump in, I would say because I've done markets for now, well, going on 6 years, if I ever see or can tell that there's a newbie, I just go over and see if they need a hand with anything. And just biggest advice is just being nice and saying hi to everybody, not just shoppers. Yeah,
for sure. And that's lovely that you reach out to vendors, because that can be really terrifying when you're first starting out.
So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to thank Ali, because Ali was at the first market I ever did. And she was the first vendor to come over and introduce herself and make me feel really welcome. So, you know, if it's a new market, if markets are new to you, going out and talking to the other vendors might make you feel a little bit more comfortable, because it did for me. I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. And if it's your first market or your first few markets, you might feel like that also. So I feel for me, I like to greet, but I don't like to smother, because you don't want to also have your customers fleeing because you're being too pushy. But I also like to offer something tactile. So I'll either spray a sample of my room spray and hand it to a customer to smell, or I have info cards. So I might hand them a card or a coupon and read their body language. So if they seem like they're engaging and they want to engage with you, engage with them. And if they're seeming like they're a little bit more closed off and they just want to browse, let them browse. And I think, as Brian said, like if you are going to have a chair, make sure that it's at eye level. Don't stand behind your booth. Get in front of your booth, talk to your customers, Set the tone. I know somebody had, I think Brittany or Victoria had mentioned about playing music in their booth and sort of setting that atmosphere that you want to have a really warm, inviting booth. So all of those things will help elevate your business for sure.
Absolutely. Those are great tips, Kim. Thank you.
I'll just jump in and just how I do it. I'm a horrible introvert. So if anybody really knows me, I really don't like people. But I force myself to be out there and talk to people. We go to an event. Like I said, we don't bring a chair. We stand up all day. We walk around. We make eye contact with everybody. And how I really do it is just say hi to them. It's just as they're walking by, make eye contact with anybody walking by and say, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Nice day today, eh?" Just stuff like that. And just making that simple, beginnings of a conversation, you attract a lot of people. I find that if you actually say, "Hey, would you like to taste this? Hey, would you like to smell this?" People get sort of standoffish because they're used to that annoying person in the mall that walks around and do that. But if you just simply say hello to the people, "Hey, how are you doing? Nice day today. Hey, great day today. Oh, it's hot." Stuff like that. It really invites them into your booth, and they'll come over and chat with you. And after they chat with you, if they spend the time to actually look at you and talk to you, they're going to buy something. That's a given sale if they show up.
I completely agree with Brian and Kim, because if you say hi and they come in and you learn to read their body language, that's one thing that I've learned over the past year. You just learn, if somebody comes over, I kind of know if they're going to want to buy something or not. I say hi to everybody. I thank them for coming to the event, because I think that's really important for showing up and supporting local. And then I just kind of step away, let them browse. And then if they have questions, or I let them know, if you need a size, let me know, but I don't hover. I never stay too close. And when I can tell that I know they're not going to buy anything, or they don't want to be bothered, they just want to look, then I step away and go do something else. But I did greet them, brought them into the booth, and then it's up to them to decide if they want to purchase something.
Absolutely. That's great, guys. Any other questions? No? Okay, after the market is over, how do we find you? So what are you doing after you leave the market? Are you on social media? Do you have a website? Are you on, a platform such as Local Street, a marketplace, or Etsy, or that sort of thing? So where are you going to tell people to find you after they leave? We're going to touch on social media next, but just, those for consideration. Other considerations is while you're there, it's really beneficial to collect information for future marketing and to grow your social media following if you have social media, and doing things like giveaways to draw people in. Everyone likes free stuff, and especially if they're kind of looking at your product, it's a great way to introduce them to your product and start a conversation with you. Do be sure, though, there are Canadian anti-spam legislation, and I have the link here. We'll be sending this out for email marketing, so make sure you're abiding by that. You do need everyone's permission, and you do need a way for people to unsubscribe from your list. So that's really important. And then asking for customer reviews is huge. So it helps build that brand trust. If consumers know that other people have bought your product and they love your product, it's definitely going. I know that's something personally for me that I always look at is what are people telling me about the product or service? So the panel discussion here, question is, what is your strategy for after and in between markets? Anybody? Or any questions around that? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Social media and marketing. So I mean, this is a really big topic. We could go, I mean, you can really get lost in this topic. It's huge. But basic high level is benefits of social media when attending markets. So why and how you would use your social media is sharing content provided by the market host. So if you've been at a market before, most market organizers will send out like a marketing kit as part of being part of the market. So you can share those that content out to your own social media, so your customers will know where you're going to be, and you're helping promote the event that you're going to be at. So that's really huge. Keeping in touch. So for your customers, it's providing them with the opportunity to keep in touch with you, and a place where you can have announcements to your following, things like new product launches, and a way to support those fellow vendors that you meet out at markets, and support them even after you leave. Important considerations when building your social media is, really being, really look at the content and the branding that you're putting out in relation to your business. That's really, really important. It is the first impression of someone that's coming to visit you on social media and potential customers. So, put a lot of thought into the colors you're using, the type of the quality of images that you're putting out. It needs to be pleasing to the eye for people visiting. And like I said, we could go on and on about social media basics, but there is a lot of resources out there. We're going to share some business resources near the end. And there is a lot of free opportunities to learn, as well as, resources out in the community that you could take advantage of, including asking fellow vendors when you go to markets, sort of looking at what they do when their social media is working well for them, and kind of going from there. So panel discussion, if you guys could have anything to add to this slide here. How do you use your social media to promote your business for markets and beyond? And then any resources, tools, or tricks that you have to manage social media.
We would definitely echo what you were bringing, Tina, in terms of quality images. That's definitely a large investment that we make as a brand. We personally use Nat Karen, and again, with each shoot, there's always, a vision. What do we want the products to allow people to feel? We use an app called Anam. We have things like planned out, so you can plan your posts in alignment with the markets. So we're either looking to take photos from previous years. We have Nat on speed dial. So at Kempen Fest, she'll come down, take a couple of photos for us, which we're either using throughout the weekend or years after for promotion. What am I missing around this, Britt, that we do? Canva is another big one that...
Yeah, sorry. We use Canva literally for everything, especially for our stories or for making reels. If you're not familiar with Canva, it's such a great website or an app that you can have on your phone, and you can upload all of your own photos. And then if you're really starting out and you want to create logos, anything, there's all the templates on there. And it's very user friendly. So even if you're not too tech savvy, it's really easy to navigate on the website there as well.
For sure. We love Canva too. We've been using it since we started out. And like you said, it's so user friendly. And even the presentation today was done on Canva. You can do literally anything. And you can share straight from your Canva as well. Or like you said, you can use a planning tool. I don't know the one that you guys use, but we've used Loomly before. And I know Meta Business Suite has one too, if you're just wanting to use one that's provided by Facebook and Instagram.
I think I'm less complicated than everybody in the group. As far as social media goes, I think we have a 16,000 followers on Instagram and 7,000 or 8,000 on Facebook. And I don't use any programs to manage any of them. All I really do is do a post every day if I can. Take a picture, say hi to people, do a little video. In my experience with my business anyways, I find that people are just happy to see that you've posted something that day, and try to do an interesting picture. This is what I'm doing today. This is how I make my product. This is what the tree looks like. I'm at a festival. Here it is. Things like that. I think you can get really complicated with social media, and if you're into that, all the power to you. Or you can approach social media as a very simple thing that you add on. I think you have to have social media. People expect you to have it, but you don't have to be afraid that you have to invest so much energy into social media that you don't want to. You can have something, as long as you have your contact information on there, do post once in a while. I think social media will work really well for most people.
Great, thank you. I'd like to say too, if you're using social media, it's great to have something like Linktree to have different links on how people can either purchase your products or, any other information or links that you want to send out, like have, your following be able to access, whether it be a blog, whether it be your website, whether it be your Etsy, whatever it is. We found that really useful as well. And it's free. You don't have to pay for, you can get a free version. Any questions on this from our attendees? Oh, okay.
Well, actually, I have a question. Has anybody had any luck doing any Instagram stories for a contest? Sorry, while they're in a market, or is it more like it's just there? Because I've tried posting of contests like, stop by the booth and first person here wins a free, something valued at $5, and it's kind of hit and miss. Has anybody had luck with larger followers?
We did one last year with a couple different brands. And what we did was, prior to the show, we had said that they could follow us on social media, but for further entry, they came to the booth, and we actually made a QR code, which linked their email as well as the following to our Instagram. And then after the show was over, we looked at all of the people who did all of those things and then just entered them into a giveaway. They got a gift card for each of our businesses. And it definitely helped to not only increase traffic to Kempenfest, but also overall cross sharing of customers between the brands that did the giveaway as well.
Okay, awesome. So that's a pretty big show, so they'd have a pretty good following to begin with as well.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'm just gonna jump in. One that I saw that was super successful was they actually had the social media contest at their booth. So as they have passer buyers, maybe it's not necessarily somebody that's purchased something, but they would say, okay, take a picture with our product behind you, tag us, and then you'll be entered into the draw. So that's a really great way too, is that you could actually get them to interact with your social media while they're there at the event. And then that just, whoever is going to view it on their social media is going to see who you are.
That's a great idea as well.
Tina, there's a question in the chat from Stephanie. She's asking, how are we planning to adjust our market schedule and product amounts to account for the decline in spending? I think that's a really good question. I can just chime in. I haven't, the markets that I go to, you're not going to win all of them. So I find I'm trying to be really tactful at the markets that I go to, and to leverage the decline in spending, perhaps that you've noticed in markets. For me and my business, I do quite a bit of wholesaling, which I think most of us on the panel do as well. So coming into this year, and I've only had one market under my belt for 2023, and I did find it was a softer market than same time last year, but I don't know if anyone else has any other experience and can answer that.
All right. I hope that is helpful. Thank you so much, Kim, for answering to that. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, this one is business resources. So we thought we would share with you some business resources that we've used along the way. that we felt helpful. And then also getting your feedback, and you can type it in the chat box as well, because we'll send this out as part of the presentation. So you'll have these resources, and I have linked everything that we have here as a resource, so you can go straight to their website. So we have listed your small business center. We have definitely been in contact with the small business center here in Barrie. They've been lovely to work with. They have a free business consultant that you can access if you're just starting out. If you haven't even started out and you just have an idea, it doesn't matter where you are in regards to your business, or even if you've been running for a period of time and you're just, finding yourself stuck or needing resources in a certain area, definitely get in touch with them. They're fantastic. They'll also share out education opportunities as well, like things like building your business plan and other things. So it's great to get on their email list. Your local chamber of commerce, again, we're members of the one.
Sorry, Tina, can we just back up to the Small Business Center as well? I think it's around June or July that they open up for grants. And so wherever, well, actually they're all different. So depending on where you are, we know that the Barrie one was June or July. I believe the Toronto one was October. But small business centers are everywhere, and they all have a date for where they open up for a grant. And it's a $5,000 grant, and anybody can apply for it. So if you contact them and ask them to email you when they're doing this the next round, then they will do that. And then you just get your application into them for that, and then wait to see if you're accepted. But it's a fabulous program.
It is. There is some time investment with it. So I believe it's every Monday for an afternoon period, a couple hours, but they would then present, and it's really geared towards like newer businesses to help get you on track, but every week would be a different focus. And they, much like we're doing today, had a panel as well as prior successful participants from the prior year, where you can engage with them and have them as mentors and speak with them offline as well if you needed. So it was a commitment from about September until November, but it was a fabulous experience, a great way to network, and a great learning opportunity, as well as an opportunity for a grant. So I believe that they chose 20 businesses, and then 10 were successful in receiving the grant at the end of the day. Your local chamber as well is a great resource. If you join your local chamber, then you're networking with people within your community, you're networking your business. There's lots of opportunities there as well in terms of education and networking online. I know the Barrie Chamber does that, and then they also have in-person opportunities and other events going on throughout the year. BDC, if you're looking for a small business loan, they're the people to go and talk to. So you can reach out to them. Digital Main Street, someone will have to correct me, but I know that they were doing, if you don't have a website and you're looking to build one, there used to be funding that you could get for that, and they would basically help you build your website, which is a great resource. There's us here on Local Street. We're an online local marketplace. I know some of our vendors are here, which is super cool. So our philosophy is shop local and be able to shop online from wherever you are. We do offer networking opportunities as well as education events such as this. So we collaborate with lots of different resources and try to be a resources for small business because we know, we don't always have the money when we're first starting out. So we'd love to share, our contacts and our knowledge and our resources. The Sandbox Center in Barrie, so they offer a workspace, they offer education programs and lots of other different things. So definitely, worth looking into. There is a membership fee there. The Harry Burnett Entrepreneurship Center. I can't speak today, apparently. I'm sorry, guys. The Further Faster program is part of that as well. So everything's linked, so you can go in and take a look if any of these interest you. And we can take other suggestions in the chat, or just raise your hand or shout it out, and we'll add it to the list here, and it will be there when it gets sent out.
I've been doing shows for 3 years. I'm like, that's awesome. You can always learn something, but it's
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear that.
I've not been learning very much.
Okay, we do have
You know,
Brian.
when
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, one thing I wanted to mention, that if anybody wanted to save any of the chat with all the links that people have supplied, if you go down to the bottom, there's 3 little dots. If you click on that, it'll give you the option to actually save the chat.
Yeah. And if you don't remember, we will save the chat before we log off, and we'll include that as part of the resources that we send out for everybody. Thanks, Ashley, for that. Kelly was saying digital mainstream is still building e-commerce site, which is great. So if you're looking for that, there's that opportunity there. And then Brian threw out Innisfil Accelerates program here. And Digital Main Street has shop here, and it's still growing. So they build an e-commerce site for you using Square or Shopify. Great. And then what we wanted to do as well, because this is all about going to markets and being able to sell at markets, we wanted an opportunity for people to share your favorites, where you love to go, where you feel like it's organized really well and where you've had success. And again, it was mentioned earlier that not every market is going to be right for you and your business. But this is a great opportunity for some leads, and then, to be able to follow them and what they're doing. So I'm going to start out by mentioning Kempenfest because it's amazing, and we have Ashley here. So I'll throw that one out here. I think, Ashley, you're almost full for this year, but you are.
Yeah, we actually have a site planning meeting today, so I can find more spaces. But yeah, we are almost full, and it's lining up to be a really good festival this year. Keep an eye out for concert announcements, which will be happening soon. But yeah.
Awesome. Any recommendations for markets that you've just had a fantastic experience at?
So I'm gonna pipe in and just say Kempenfest is an amazing event, but it was something that I aspired to go to. So when you're starting off and you're new, you might not have the inventory, you might not have the labor, the power to create enough items to sustain you through the whole 3 days of the market. So other markets that I've done that, 1 day commitment. Of course, with Tina, I did Local Street last summer, and that was at our beautiful waterfront at not Heritage Park, South Shore Center. So I find venue is just as important as who's organizing the market, because you want to make sure it's accessible. There's been some markets that I've done that are sort of off the beaten path. Sometimes people come and sometimes they don't. Spice, that actually Ali organizes, is great. That's down at the McLaren Arts Center, and that's a holiday market. It's beautiful. It's a curated market. It's just magical and has really beautiful flow, and the venue is absolutely breathtaking. Some outdoor markets as well. Laura's Farm Stand, which is just south of Barrie. I find the outdoor farm markets are really great. I've not done an actual farmers market. I know Brian can speak to that, but there's so many markets. So for me, I found when I first got started, I was asking other vendors. And if you have vendors that are sort of products or or, if you're a food vendor and there's other food vendors, like ask other peers, like what works for you. And that's how I found some of the best markets that I attend, or through talking to other businesses.
That's great. Thank you. And we do have some suggestions here in the chat. We'll make sure again that this gets out to everybody. So thank you for that. And lots of feedback here. So some great leads for everybody. Thank you for that.
I just want to jump in and talk about farmers markets.
Yeah.
We do a lot of farmers markets. And we started out, I think when we started, we were doing 9 a week, 9 farmers markets a week. And we've toned that down to about 5 now we're doing this year. I find that a lot of vendors think they have a product, they like it, they think they can sell it, and then they get into a farmer's market and they try to sell their products to the people coming in. Farmers markets are hit and miss, and they have a finite clientele. So don't expect to get rich at a farmer's market. A farmer's market's like sort of setting up a grocery store. You got to be there every day that market's open for years before you build enough clientele where you're actually making reasonable amounts of money while you're going to it. Too many people start out with a new item, a new craft, a new food, and they start out expecting to make hundreds of dollars that day. And they don't
It's a farmer's market.
money for months and months and months, if not years. So don't expect to get
It's
rich
not a
on it.
regular.
Yeah, most farmers, yeah, I think he's referring to like every Saturday, there's a farmer's market wherever, right?
Yeah, and he's a food vendor, so.
We're just gonna make sure we want to be on mute if we're talking in the background there. Hold on. Okay, that's great. Now we do have time allotted for questions. This is our last slide here. We'll almost be have a contact slide at the very end, but even big businesses start small. So we all start somewhere. And you know, using your community to help you grow is really important. So this is a great opportunity to ask questions if you have it. You've got lots of people here with lots of different expertise. Yeah, and if you don't want to say it out loud, just throw it in our chats, and we can answer.
So we might go do the snow blowing after. I see.
Did you see the snow?
Oh.
The guy came by and it was like.
Put that on mute, Nick, if you have the.
Yeah, he was making a big old mess.
Katie, do you want to go on mute?
Thank you. All right. I don't have the chat open right now, but if there are, does anyone see questions in the chat, or can we move on to the LAO? I see, maybe.
Sorry, Tina, I'm just looking through the chat now for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just see if there's any additional questions. There's a lot of great comments.
Other than social media, there's one in the very last one.
Okay, let me just hear. Oh, yes. Other than social media and marketplaces, how is everyone advertising?
Okay, does anyone have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So I'll repeat it again. Other than social media and marketplaces, how is everyone advertising? What's your approach to advertising other than those ones mentioned?
So I use Facebook and Instagram ads, not often, but I find that they're quite budget friendly. If I'm sure there's many of us that have maybe tried that are on the panel, different means of advertising, but my budget is very small. So I usually set it to somewhere around $25, and you can actually target your market. So if you want to use a certain demographic, certain interests, if I'm doing a new launch, or if it's a, you know, Mother's Day, Easter, something that I just want to promote, that's maybe something that's new, I will use an Instagram or Facebook ad, and I'll have it run for maybe a Wednesday to a Sunday. And I do always find I get an influx of sales that way. But other than that, I haven't done any outside advertising with any other companies. I've had places approach me and do that. I'm actually looking at wrapping my van in my branding. And so when I'm driving around doing my wholesale deliveries, I'll have my website, all my socials on there. So that'll be my next step. But I've only ever done the Facebook and Instagram ads.
Yeah, that's great feedback. We also use Facebook and Instagram ads, and like Kim said, very affordable. You can target it to where you want to go. There are other opportunities as you start to follow different people, different opportunities for local print options, and you know, holiday gift guides and that sort of thing. You just have to be careful, like, who you're going with, and making sure that they're going to be putting it out there in the right places, and that they're going to be marketing it properly. But those are also great as well. But we know that, like, in general, the bigger marketing is really expensive, which is where small businesses really struggle. So those ideas, like Kim was saying, if you have a vehicle and you can wrap it and get, you know, eventually down the road when you can afford to do that, that's a great opportunity as well. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram is a great tool. We saw a lot more traffic to the website when we were doing certain things compared to, you know, at different periods of time and different promotions that we're doing. We definitely saw an uptick when we used Facebook and Instagram.
I also can just add that I just use Facebook and Instagram currently. When I do run Spice though, I look to the radio, which wouldn't really apply to vendors, I don't think at this time. But there's always, you can always put in an ad somewhere in print as well, but mostly Instagram and Facebook, only because if you're just making a post and you boost it, it's fairly affordable. So that's always a good option.
Most successful advertising that I've seen is literally just getting out there as much as you can. If you can make yourself memorable and you're attending things and being involved and being present, people will start to they'll start to recognize you, because often, you know, festival or market attendees tend to come back every year, or they'll go travel to a new one. It's kind of like a small addiction. And if you're there, if you're at them, you're going to start to gain a following, really.
Yeah, so I think your branding sort of doesn't have to be, but if you start off with some solid branding, then people will remember like a logo or a clever name or something to keep that kind of memory there for when they see you again. They'll say, oh, you were here last year.
Just on that note, Allison, actually, Georgian College is doing a program right now with their marketing students. They're looking for companies who are interested in marketing or branding content. So whether it be social media, a new logo, fundraising idea, just, you know, how to get a target market. It's called Tree Fort program, and I'll put the contact information for Allison here. But you know, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's a great way to support your community and local students.
Yeah, fresh brains too.
One thing I'll mention, because it's kind of quiet here. One thing I'll mention is something that we didn't talk about. We mentioned that if you attend a market, you know, expect that not every market is going to be your niche demographic. But one thing that we didn't mention is if you don't get accepted into a market, try not to take it personally. You know, as a coordinator, we do our best to, you know, if we could have it our way, we would have everybody join in, right? We want to support everyone. But if you don't make it in, consider maybe how you're presenting yourself, how you're presenting your product. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Also consider that they're trying to diversify things as well. So, you know, one of my goals is I'm not going to have 40 jewelry people, which we've had in the past. We're trying to keep it so that there is enough space around our jewelry people that they don't feel overcrowded or, you know, too much competition all at once. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you do so happen to get a waitlist letter, or I don't want to say rejection, but, you know, maybe you weren't approved that year, just reach out, ask why, and take that, you know, constructive criticism on how you can better your application for future years or for future festivals.
I think we lost Tina there, Ash.
Are we? Oh, well, is Nicole still here?
I'm still here, Ashley. So
I'll just give
you
her
know
a call
what?
and see what happens.
Yeah, yes. I didn't notice because I've got everyone on the screen, but I'm kind of trying to keep track of everything behind the scenes. So does anyone have any other last questions before we kind of do a wrap? No. Well, on behalf of the whole team, number one, we want to say thank you to everybody. We want to thank all of the panelists who have joined us today to share your expertise, your tips, your journey, which has been amazing because it really does make a difference when we hear those stories from each one of you.
Okay. Thanks. I'll let her know.
Yeah, and then also Ashley for this coordination, dual coordination partnership to host this event, which has been fantastic, because again, lots on the plate. And then of
Sorry, Nick,
course,
can you let
yeah.
Tina back in?
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I can. One moment. Okay. And she should be in a couple seconds. And then as well, a big thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We certainly hope that you have learned something new. Like I said, got some great tips or, some ideas that have sort of sparked based on the information that's been shared today. So that's wonderful. And Tina, I know you're here. Do you want to just, I was just thanking everybody, both the panelists, Ashley, participants. Would you like to just add to the group?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for filling in. I lost internet for a minute there. I'm so sorry. It's like the day of just tech stuff. I'm so sorry, everybody. But I do want to thank everybody for coming out. It's such a pleasure to have you all here. And again, our panel, fantastic. So many great tips shared by everybody. And we do have, I believe I'm sharing right now, is our last page, the contact page. So everyone's contact is here in case you do want to get in touch with anybody and you have any specific questions maybe you didn't want to ask online. You have all the information here, and we will be sending this out all to you later on. But thank you.
And as well, if anyone wants to, as Tina said, we will be sending this out, but you can also save the chat. And I know Ashley mentioned how you do that. So if you go down below, there's like 3 dots. You click on the 3 dots that says more, and there's a save chat button. So lots of great information.
So thank you, everybody. Yeah, and keep in touch. And